The glass shattered against the marble floor, expensive whiskey spreading like blood across the white stone. Kang Dae-hyun's hand trembled, something that hadn't happened in over a decade. Not during territory wars. Not when he'd taken 3 bullets to the chest. Not even when he'd buried his mother. But now, hearing that name after 8 years of silence, his composure cracked like the crystal at his feet.
Sarah.
The woman stood in the doorway of his penthouse office, and time collapsed. She looked different. Harder. Her natural hair was pulled back into a sleek bun, and she wore a crisp white blouse and black slacks that screamed business, not pleasure. The soft artist he'd known in Los Angeles had been replaced by someone who'd learned to armor herself against the world. Against men like him. But it was the little girl clutching her hand that made Dae-hyun's heart stop completely. 7 years old, maybe 8. Caramel skin that was a perfect blend of Sarah's deep brown and his own lighter Korean complexion. Delicate features. Black curly hair cascading down her back. And when she looked up at him with those impossibly large, questioning eyes, Dae-hyun felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Those were his eyes. Exactly his eyes. Dark, intense, with that slight upward tilt at the corners that marked the Kang family bloodline going back 6 generations. Every male Kang had those eyes. His father had them. His grandfather. And now this tiny girl who couldn't possibly be anyone else's daughter but his. Sarah's voice cut through a shock like a blade. Ice cold. Precisely controlled. Nothing like the warm, musical tone he remembered whispering his name in the darkness of her Los Angeles apartment. Don't look so shocked, Dae-hyun. Yes, she's yours.
He tried to speak. Failed.
Tried again. Sarah, Save it. She held up one hand, and he noticed the medical bracelet on the child's wrist. His stomach dropped. I didn't fly 7,000 miles for explanations or apologies. I came because I have no other choice. The little girl shifted closer to her mother, and Dae-hyun saw fear in those eyes. His eyes. Fear of him. The realization was a knife between his ribs. What's wrong? His voice came out rougher than intended. What happened? Sarah's jaw tightened. For a moment, he thought she might turn around and leave. Instead, she drew a deep breath and delivered the words that would shatter what remained of his carefully constructed world. Isla has acute myeloid leukemia. Aggressive. Stage 3. She needs a bone marrow transplant within the next 6 weeks, or she'll die. Sarah's voice cracked slightly on the last word, the only sign of the terror she must be carrying. I'm not a match. Her doctors tested every viable donor in our database. You're her last hope. The room spun. Dae-hyun gripped the edge of his desk, expensive Italian leather creaking under his fingers. A daughter. He had a daughter. And she was dying. How long have you known, he managed, that she's sick? For months. That you're her father? Sarah's laugh was bitter. Since the day she was born, and the nurse said she had the most unusual eyes she'd ever seen on a newborn. Isla tugged on Sarah's sleeve. Mommy, she whispered, her voice small and scared. Is this really my daddy? The question hit Dae-hyun like a physical blow. Sarah's expression softened as she looked down at her daughter, brushing a curl away from the child's face with infinite tenderness. Yes, baby. This is your father. Dae-hyun took a step forward. Just one. But Sarah immediately moved Isla behind her, protective instinct blazing in her eyes. He froze. Don't. Sarah's voice was quiet but absolute. You don't get to play daddy now. You disappeared 8 years ago without a word. Without a trace. I tried to find you, Dae-hyun. For months I tried. I hired investigators. I called every Korean business in California. I went to the address you'd given me and found an empty lot. I can explain. I don't want your explanations. The fury finally broke through her controlled exterior. I don't want your excuses about whatever important business pulled you away. I built a life. I raised our daughter alone. I stayed up nights when she had colic. I worked too. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. Thank you. 2 jobs to pay for her daycare. I taught her to ride a bike and read and write her name. Where were you? Where were you for any of it? Each word was an accusation, and Dae-hyun accepted every one. He deserved worse. You're right, he said quietly. You're absolutely right. I have no excuse that matters. But Sarah, please. Let me help now. Let me save her. Sarah's shoulders sagged slightly, exhaustion showing through. That's why I'm here. Not for you. For her. Isla peeked out from behind her mother, curiosity apparently stronger than fear. Are you really a businessman like Mommy said? The innocent question made Sarah close her eyes briefly. What had she told their daughter about him? What stories had she invented to explain his absence? Dae-hyun knelt down, bringing himself to Isla's eye level. Even that small movement made his security team tense, he noticed in his peripheral vision. Shin Ho-jin, his second-in-command, watched from the corner like a hawk. I am, Dae-hyun said, choosing his words carefully. I run several companies here in Seoul. That's far from America, Isla observed with the blunt honesty of children. Very far. Is that why you couldn't come see me? The question was so simple, so devastating. Dae-hyun felt something crack deep in his chest, something he thought was permanently calcified. I didn't know about you, he said, and saw Sarah flinch at the admission. If I had known, nothing could have kept me away. Isla, honey, why don't you sit over there for a minute? Sarah pointed to the leather sofa near the window. Mommy needs to talk to your father. The little girl hesitated, then nodded. As she walked to the couch, Dae-hyun noticed the slight unevenness in her gait, the fatigue, the pallor under her beautiful skin. His daughter was sick, and he'd missed every moment of her life up until this point. Once Isla was out of immediate earshot, Sarah moved closer. Close enough that Dae-hyun could smell the familiar scent of her perfume, something with vanilla and amber. The same fragrance from 8 years ago. The realization made his chest ache. We need to get you tested immediately, Sarah said. All business now. I have her medical records here. She pulled a tablet from her bag, and Dae-hyun saw the weariness in the movement. How long had she been fighting this battle alone? Her oncologist is Dr. Kim Sung-ho at Samsung Medical Center. I contacted him before flying here. He's expecting us.
Us.
Dae-hyun caught the word. I'm not leaving her with you, Sarah said flatly. I don't care if you're her biological father. You're a stranger to her. To both of us now. That hurt more than it should have. But she was right. I'll call Dr. Kim immediately. We can go now if you'd like.
No.
Sarah shook her head. Isla's exhausted from the flight. We've been traveling for 19 hours. We have a hotel room. We'll go tomorrow morning. A hotel? Dae-hyun frowned. Sarah, I have more than enough space here. Multiple guest rooms. A full medical suite. Let me.
No.
The word was final. We stay at the hotel. This isn't a reunion, Dae-hyun. This is a medical emergency. Once you're tested, once we know if you're a match, once the transplant is done and Isla is stable, we're going back to Los Angeles. Back to our life. Our life. Not his life. The distinction was clear. I understand, he said, even though understanding and accepting were 2 different things. But please, at least let me send a car for you tomorrow. And security. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Security? Why would we need security? Dae-hyun hesitated. This was the moment. The moment where he had to decide how much truth to tell her. Looking at Isla on the couch, swinging her legs and examining the Seoul skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he made his choice. Because of who I am, he said quietly. What I am. Sarah, when I told you I ran businesses in Seoul, that wasn't exactly the whole truth. I know, she said, surprising him. You think I didn't research you before coming here? Kang Dae-hyun, son of Kang Tae-won, head of the Kang family, one of the most powerful crime syndicates in South Korea. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You're Yakuza, or the Korean equivalent. I know exactly what you are. The accusation in her voice cut deep. Then why bring Isla here? If you know what I am, why risk it? Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back furiously. Because she's dying, Dae-hyun. Because every doctor in California told me that without a biological match, her chances are less than 30%. Because despite everything you are, despite everything you did, you're her father. And I will walk through hell itself to save my daughter. Our daughter, he corrected softly. She stopped being yours the moment you walked away from me. The words hung between them like a blade. Before Dae-hyun could respond, Isla called out from the couch.
Mommy, I'm tired.
Sarah immediately shifted back into mother mode, the hardness leaving her face. I know, baby. We'll go to the hotel soon, and you can rest. Can we get tteokbokki first? The spicy rice cakes? You promised we could try Korean food. Despite everything, Sarah smiled. Maybe something less spicy for tonight, sweetheart. Dae-hyun watched the interaction, memorizing every detail. The way Sarah's whole body softened when she looked at Isla. The way Isla trusted her mother completely, absolutely. The bond between them was unbreakable, forged over 7 years of shared life that he'd never be part of. There's an excellent Korean restaurant on the ground floor of the Isla Hotel, Dae-hyun said. Where are you staying? The Isla, Sarah admitted reluctantly. Of course. She'd chosen one of the best hotels in Seoul.
For Isla.
Everything for Isla. Then you're practically home already. Let me at least call ahead, and make sure they prepare something appropriate for a child. Something mild but authentic. Sarah looked like she wanted to refuse, but Isla's excited really from the couch made her hesitate.
Fine, she said.
But we're paying for our own meal. I wouldn't dream of suggesting otherwise. Dae-hyun lied smoothly. He would definitely be paying for it, and upgrading their room to the presidential suite, and assigning a full security detail, and making sure Dr. Kim cleared his entire schedule for the next week.
But Sarah didn't need to know any of that right now.
Ho-jin materialized at his elbow. Boss, shall I arrange transportation?
Yes.
The black sedan. And call the Isla.
Présidentielle suite.
Move whoever's in it. Already done, sir. Dae-hyun allowed himself a small smile. This was why Ho-jin was his second. As they prepared to leave, Isla walked over to Dae-hyun. Up close, the resemblance was even more startling. She had Sarah's nose, Sarah's mouth, but the rest was pure Kang. Are you going to help make me better? She asked with heartbreaking directness. I'm going to try my hardest, Dae-hyun promised. Okay. She considered him seriously. You're very tall. You might be tall too when you're grown. Mommy says I'm going to be tall. She says I get it from my daddy's side. Isla tilted her head. I guess that's you now. That's me now, Dae-hyun agreed, his throat tight. Do you know how to braid hair? The question came out of nowhere. Dae-hyun blinked. I don't. Oh. Isla looked disappointed. Mommy does it, but sometimes her hands hurt from working all day. I thought maybe you could learn. Sarah made a strangled sound. Isla, honey, we should go. But Dae-hyun knelt down again, meeting his daughter's eyes. His eyes. I can learn, he said seriously. If you want me to, I can learn how to braid hair. Isla's face lit up. Really? Really? Okay. Maybe when I'm better, you can practice. When I'm better. Not if. The child's optimism and faith shattered something in Dae-hyun's carefully maintained emotional walls. It's a deal, he managed. The ride to the Isla Hotel was tense. Sarah sat in the back of the sedan with Isla, as far from Dae-hyun as possible. His daughter pressed her face against the window, marveling at the Seoul skyline lit up in the evening darkness. "It's so pretty," Isla breathed. "Look at all the lights, Mommy." "I see them, baby." "Is this where you lived?" Isla asked Dae-hyun. "Before you met Mommy?" "I grew up here, yes," Dae-hyun said carefully. "In Seoul." "Do you have a mommy and daddy?" Isla saragorn. "It's okay," Dae-hyun said quickly. "My mother passed away when I was young, but my father is still alive." "Does he live in that big building too?" "No. He lives in a traditional house outside the city. It's very old. It belonged to my grandfather and his grandfather before him." Isla's eyes widened. "That's so old. Is it haunted?" Despite the tension, Dae-hyun smiled. "Some people say so. There are stories about a lady in white who walks the gardens at night." "Spooky," Isla said, delighted rather than scared. Sarah shot him a look that clearly said stop filling our daughter's head with ghost stories, but didn't interrupt. Maybe she was too tired. Or maybe, despite her anger, she recognized that Isla needed this. Needed to connect with the father she'd only imagined until today. They arrived at the Shilla, and Dae-hyun noticed Sarah's eyes widen slightly when they were escorted directly to the presidential suite. She opened her mouth to protest, then seemed to think better of it. Probably didn't want to make a scene in front of Isla. "This is temporary," she said quietly as the bellhop showed them in. "We can't afford." "It's taken care of," Dae-hyun said. "Consider it part of the medical expenses. You flew across the world to find me. The least I can do is make sure you're comfortable. I don't want your money." "It's not about what you want, Sarah. It's about what Isla needs." That silenced her, because they both knew he was right. Everything was about Isla now. The little girl was already exploring the suite, exclaiming over the marble bathroom and the view of Namsan Tower. For a moment, watching her, you'd never know she was sick. But then she paused, one hand going to her chest, breathing slightly harder than she should be. Sarah was at her side in an instant. "Tired, baby?" "A little," Isla admitted. "Let's get you changed and into bed. We have a big day tomorrow." As Sarah helped Isla get ready for bed, Dae-hyun stood awkwardly in the living area of the suite. He'd faced down rival gang leaders, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, ordered actions that changed people's lives forever. But he had no idea what to do in this moment. How to be useful. How to be anything other than the stranger who'd abandoned them. Ho-jin had discreetly stationed security throughout the hotel. Dae-hyun pulled out his phone and sent a quick message to Dr. Kim, confirming the morning appointment. Then he called his father. Kang Tae-won answered on the second ring. "Dae-hyun, it's late." "Father, I need to tell you something." Dae-hyun moved to the window, lowering his voice. "I have a daughter." Silence. "Then explain." Dae-hyun told him everything. Los Angeles.
Sarah.
The pregnancy he'd known nothing about. Isla's illness. When he finished, his father was quiet for a long moment. "Bring them to the house," Tae-won finally said. "Father, I don't think that's—" "Bring them to the house," his father repeated, his tone brooking no argument. "If this child is a Kong, she belongs with family. Especially now." "The mother won't agree." "Then convince her. You're my son. Act like it." The line went dead. Dae-hyun stared at his phone. His father's demand was typical, but also impossible. Sarah had made her position clear. She wasn't here for a family reunion. She was here to save Isla's life. Nothing more. Sarah emerged from the bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide.
"She's asleep," Sarah said.
Finally. "How long has she been sick?" Dae-hyun asked quietly. "We noticed the symptoms about 5 months ago."
"Bruising easily.
Fatigue. Frequent infections. I thought it was just normal kid stuff at first." Took her to the pediatrician for a checkup. Sarah's voice went hollow. They found abnormalities in her blood work. Referred us to an oncologist. 3 weeks later, we had the diagnosis. 5 months, Dae-hyun repeated. 5 months of terror, of treatments, of watching their daughter suffer. And he'd known nothing. What's the treatment been? Chemotherapy. 3 rounds so far. It's bought us time, kept the leukemia from progressing too rapidly. But it's not enough. The cancer is aggressive. Without the transplant, the doctors give her maybe 6 months. With it, if we find a match, her survival rate jumps to 70%. 70%. Still not a guarantee. Still not enough. I'll be tested first thing tomorrow, Dae-hyun said. And if I'm not a match, you have to be, Sarah interrupted, and for the first time, he heard the desperation beneath her anger. You have to be, Dae-hyun. Because if you're not, I don't know what else to do. I've exhausted every option, every database, every possibility. You're the last hope. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders like lead. Why didn't you try harder to find me? The question came out before he could stop it. You said you looked, but... Don't. Sarah's eyes flashed. Don't you dare suggest I didn't try hard enough. I did everything. Everything. But you'd vanish like smoke. The company you said you worked for didn't exist. The phone number you gave me was disconnected. The apartment you took me to once? Empty. It was like you were a ghost. I had to disappear, Dae-hyun said. When I left Los Angeles, I was recalled to Seoul for... He hesitated. How much should he tell her? For your arranged marriage, Sarah finished bitterly. Yes, I found out about that too. Eventually. Took me 3 years and a private investigator who specialized in international cases. By then, your wife was dead, and you were running your father's empire. Dae-hyun flinched. His marriage to Choi Min-seo had been a business arrangement, nothing more. She'd been kind enough, but they'd never loved each other. When she died in that car accident 2 years ago, he'd mourned the waste of a young life, but nothing deeper. He hadn't told Sarah that he'd looked for her too, in those first months after Min-seo's death. That he'd gone back to Los Angeles, to the gallery where they'd met, only to find it closed, Sarah long gone. I looked for you too, he said quietly. After my wife died, I went back to LA. Well, I was a little busy raising our daughter alone, Sarah shot back. Funny how that works. They stood in tense silence, years of pain and misunderstanding between them. Finally, Sarah sighed. I should sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. Sarah, wait. Dae-hyun moved closer. Not too close, respecting her boundaries. I know I can't make up for the lost time. I know I can't fix what I broke. But please, let me help. Really help. Not just with the medical costs. With everything. I don't need your help with everything. I need your bone marrow. That's it. What about after? If the transplant works, Isla will need monitoring. Follow-up care. Physical therapy, possibly. Let you what? Play daddy for a few weeks and then disappear again when it gets inconvenient. The accusation stung because it was fair. I won't disappear, Dae-hyun said. Not this time. I swear it. Your swears don't mean much to me anymore. Sarah turned toward the bedroom, then paused. Without looking back, she said, she asked about you, you know, when she was little. Where's my daddy? Why doesn't he come see me? Doesn't he love me? I had to make up stories. Tell her you were far away, working, that you would come if you could. I protected you in her mind, Dae-hyun. I made you a hero instead of the man who abandoned us. Don't make me regret that. She disappeared into the bedroom, leaving Dae-hyun alone with the weight of her words. He left shortly after, but not before leaving Ho-jin's number with the hotel concierge and posting additional security in the hallway. Sarah would be angry when she discovered it, but he didn't care. They were his responsibility now, his to protect. The next morning arrived too quickly. Dae-hyun had barely slept, his mind racing with possibilities and fears. What if he wasn't a match? What if he was, but the transplant failed? What if he lost this daughter he'd just found? He arrived at the hotel at 8 a.m. sharp. Sarah opened the door already dressed, her expression neutral. "Isla's eating breakfast," she said. "We'll be ready in 15 minutes." True to her word, they were in the car 15 minutes later. Isla was quieter this morning, the excitement of yesterday worn off. She held a stuffed rabbit, well-loved and slightly worn. "That's Mr. Hoppy," she told Dae-hyun solemnly. "He goes everywhere with me." "He looks like a very good rabbit," Dae-hyun said seriously.
He is.
"Mommy got him for me when I was a baby." At Samsung Medical Center, Dr. Kim Sung-ho met them personally. He was in his 50s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Miss Sarah, it's good to see you again," he said in perfect English, then switched to Korean for Dae-hyun. "Mr. Kong, thank you for coming so quickly." They ran the tests immediately. Blood draw, tissue typing, full medical workup. The whole process took 3 hours. Isla sat in the waiting room with Sarah, working on a coloring book while her mother anxiously checked her phone every 30 seconds. Dae-hyun emerged from the testing area to find his daughter had fallen asleep against Sarah's shoulder. Sarah stroked her hair absently, her expression distant. "How much longer?" she asked when she saw him. Dr. Kim said preliminary results should be ready by this afternoon. "Full compatibility testing will take a few days." Sarah nodded, not looking at him. "Sarah," Dae-hyun started, but was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. Ho-jin appeared, looking uncharacteristically flustered. Behind him was a woman Dae-hyun had hoped never to see again. Choi Yuna. She swept into the waiting room like she owned it, designer handbag swinging, perfectly made up despite the early hour. When she saw Dae-hyun, her red lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Dae-hyun," she purred in Korean. "I heard you were at the hospital. I came to see if you were all right." Sarah stiffened beside him, instinctively drawing Isla closer even though the child was asleep. "Yuna," Dae-hyun said coldly. "This isn't a good time." Clearly. Yuna's gaze swept over Sarah and Isla with undisguised disdain. "And who might these people be?" The dismissive tone made Dae-hyun's blood boil, but before he could respond, Sarah stood up carefully, adjusting Isla in her arms. "I'm Sarah," she said in English, her voice steady despite the obvious tension.
"And this is Isla."
"His daughter." Yuna's smile froze. She switched to English, her accent perfect. "His daughter? How interesting. I wasn't aware Dae-hyun had any children." "Neither was he until yesterday," Sarah said, coolly. "But genetics don't lie." Yuna's eyes narrowed as she studied Isla's sleeping face. Even Dae-hyun could see the moment she recognized the Kong features, particularly those unmistakable eyes. "I see," Yuna said, her voice dropping several degrees. "Well, this is quite the surprise." "Yuna, you need to leave," Dae-hyun said firmly. "Leave? But darling, we had plans for this afternoon. Lunch at the plaza, remember? To discuss our family's continued partnership." The emphasis on "our families" was deliberate. Sarah caught it too, her expression hardening. "Our partnership ended 2 years ago," Dae-hyun said. "When your sister died." "Minaseo's death doesn't change the alliance between the Kong and Choi families," Yuna countered. "Your father and mine have been discussing a renewal of ties." A new arrangement. Dae-hyun felt like he'd been punched. His father had mentioned nothing about this. But knowing Tae-won, it was entirely possible he'd been negotiating behind the scenes. "There will be no new arrangement," Dae-hyun said flatly. Yuna's smile turned predatory. "Oh. And does your father know about your sudden change of heart? Does he know about them?" She gestured dismissively at Sarah and Isla. "He will soon enough." "How nice." Yuna stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper meant only for Dae-hyun. You always did have a weakness for pretty things. But this? A foreign woman and a child? This will destroy your standing in the family. In the organization. Choose wisely, Dae-hyun. Before Dae-hyun could respond, Sarah spoke up, her voice carrying despite Isla sleeping in her arms. He doesn't need to choose, she said. We're not here for family reunions or politics. We're here for a medical procedure. Once it's done, we're going back to Los Angeles. Dae-hyun can keep his standing, his organization, and whatever arrangement your families want. The words should have been reassuring. Instead, they felt like a rejection. Yuna's smile widened. How very practical. I can see why you appeal to him. But tell me, does your daughter know what her father really is? What kind of man leads the life he does? Yuna enough, Dae-hyun growled. But Yuna was on a roll, switching back to Korean, speaking faster. Does she know about the blood on his hands? The deals made in darkness? The enemies who would love nothing more than to find a weakness to exploit. Stop, Dae-hyun commanded, his voice hard enough to echo off the hospital walls. Isla stirred in Sarah's arms, waking up. She looked around confused, then focused on Yuna. Who's the pretty lady? Isla asked sleepily. Yuna's expression shifted instantly, becoming saccharine sweet. I'm an old friend of your father's, little one. Oh. Isla studied her with a child's frank assessment. You're very beautiful. Thank you, darling. But you have mean eyes, Isla added matter-of-factly. Sarah choked back what might have been a laugh. Yuna's smile became strained. Children say the strangest things, she murmured. Dr. Kim chose that moment to return, saving them from further awkwardness. He looked between the assembled group with professional concern. Mr. Kong, Miss Sarah, could I speak with you privately? Dae-hyun's heart lurched. Was it bad news? Already? I'll wait out here with Isla, Yuna offered smoothly. No, Sarah and Dae-hyun said simultaneously. Sarah continued. Ho-jin can watch her. Right here in the waiting room where I can see her. Ho-jin nodded, already moving to sit near the child. Dae-hyun had never been more grateful for his second-in-command's presence. In Dr. Kim's office, the news was better than expected. Preliminary results showed Dae-hyun was indeed a match. Not perfect, but close enough that a transplant had a strong chance of success. We'll need to run more detailed tests, Dr. Kim explained. But based on what I'm seeing, you're compatible. The full analysis will take 3 to 4 days, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Sarah's knees buckled. Dae-hyun caught her instinctively, and for a moment, she let him. Just a moment. Then she pulled away, wiping at her eyes. Thank you, she whispered to Dr. Kim. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, the doctor cautioned. We have a long road ahead, but this is a very good start. When they emerged from the office, Yuna was still there, now sitting near Ho-jin and Isla, attempting to engage the child in conversation. Isla looked uncomfortable, answering in monosyllables. We're done here, Dae-hyun announced. Yuna, you should go. Yuna stood gracefully, gathering her handbag. Of course. But Dae-hyun, we really do need to talk. About the families. About expectations. Not now. Soon, then. She leaned in, kissing his cheek in a gesture that was more possessive than affectionate. I'll be in touch. She swept out, leaving tension in her wake. Isla immediately bounced over to Sarah. Can we go now, Mommy? That lady was weird. Yes, baby. We can go. In the car ride back to the hotel, Isla peppered Dae-hyun with questions. Did he like ice cream? What was his favorite color? Did he have any pets? The normalcy of it was surreal given everything happening around them. I like chocolate ice cream, Dae-hyun answered.
Blue.
And no pets. I travel too much. Mommy likes strawberry ice cream, Isla informed him. And her favorite color is purple. We have a cat named Picasso because Mommy likes art. Does Picasso miss you?
Yeah.
Our neighbor, Mrs. Chan, is feeding him. But I miss him a lot. Isla's face fell slightly. I hope I get better soon so I can go home and see him. You will, Dae-hyun said with more confidence than he felt. You'll be better soon. Back at the hotel, Sarah seemed to make a decision. Isla, honey, why don't you watch TV for a bit while I talk to your father? Okay. Isla was happy to curl up on the couch with Mr. Hoppy and the remote. Sarah led Dae-hyun to the suite's balcony, closing the door behind them. The Seoul skyline stretched out before them, beautiful and indifferent. That woman, Sarah started.
Yuna.
She's the one you were supposed to marry, isn't she? Her sister was. Dae-hyun corrected. Minesio. Yuna and I were never engaged. But she wants to be. What she wants doesn't matter. Sarah laughed bitterly. Doesn't it? She seemed pretty confident about these family arrangements. And you didn't exactly deny them. Because I didn't know about them, Dae-hyun admitted. My father has been making moves without consulting me. But Sarah, I don't want Yuna. I never did. What you want stopped being my concern 8 years ago. Did it? Dae-hyun moved closer. Because it seems like you still care. At least a little. Don't. Sarah held up a hand, creating distance. Don't do this. We're not those people anymore. I'm not that naive art student who believed in grand romance. And you're not the mysterious businessman who swept me off my feet. We're different now. Some things don't change. Everything changes, Dae-hyun. Especially when you have a child dying in the next room. The harsh reality check worked. Dae-hyun stepped back. You're right. I'm sorry. Isla is what matters now. Sarah nodded, but her expression softened slightly. Thank you. For being a match. For doing this. You don't need to thank me. She's my daughter too. Biologically, yes. But Dae-hyun, after this is over, I meant what I said. We're going back to Los Angeles. You can visit if you want. We can work out some kind of arrangement. But I'm not uprooting Isla's entire life to stay in Seoul. What if she wants to stay? She's 7. She doesn't get to make that decision. And I don't get a say? You gave up your say when you disappeared. The words hung between them, a chasm too wide to cross. Their conversation was interrupted by Ho-jin's urgent knock. Sarah opened the balcony door to find him looking grim. Boss, we have a problem. The Choi family has called a meeting. Your father wants you at the family estate. Tonight. Dae-hyun cursed in Korean. Tell him I'm unavailable. He said it's not a request. The entire council will be there, including Mr. Choi. This was it. The moment Dae-hyun had been dreading. His two worlds colliding. What's going on? Sarah asked, picking up on the tension. Family business, Dae-hyun said tersely. I need to go handle something.
Now?
We just got the test results. I thought we'd discuss next steps. We will. Tomorrow. I promise. But right now, I need to deal with this before it becomes a bigger problem. Sarah's eyes narrowed. This is about that Yuna woman, isn't it? About these family arrangements? Dae-hyun hesitated, then nodded.
Yes.
My father, he's been negotiating with the Choi family. An alliance through marriage.
To me.
To you, Sarah repeated flatly. So, while I'm here begging you to save our daughter's life, you're planning a wedding? I'm not planning anything. I didn't even know about this until Yuna showed up today. But you're going to this meeting. I have to. If I don't, my father will. Dae-hyun stopped, realizing how it sounded. Will what? Be disappointed? Angry? Disinherit you? Sarah's voice rose. Our daughter is fighting for her life, Dae-hyun. Your family politics can wait. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Either Isla is your priority or she's not. Isla's small voice came from the doorway. Are you fighting about me? Both adults froze. How long had she been standing there? Sarah immediately went to her. No, baby. We're just talking about grown-up stuff. It sounded like fighting. Isla's lower lip trembled. I don't want you to fight because of me. Dae-hyun knelt down, meeting those eyes so like his own. We're not fighting because of you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, even if I just met you. Okay. Okay, Isla whispered, but she didn't look convinced. I have to go somewhere tonight, Dae-hyun continued. Family business. But I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll spend the whole day together. Would you like that?
Isla nodded slowly.
After Dae-hyun left, Sarah held Isla close, her mind racing. She'd come to Seoul with one goal: save her daughter. But now, she was tangled in a web of family politics, old flames, and a criminal organization she barely understood. Part of her wanted to grab Isla and run back to Los Angeles, find another solution somehow. But the rational part knew Dae-hyun was their best hope. Their only hope. She just had to trust him not to disappear again. The Kong family estate was exactly as Dae-hyun remembered: imposing, traditional, and suffocating. The main house, over 200 years old, sat at the center of manicured gardens. Tonight, every light was blazing. Dae-hyun entered the formal dining hall to find the family council already assembled. His father, Kong Tae-won, sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. To his right sat Mr. Choi, Yuna's father, a man nearly as powerful as Tae-won himself. And beside him, Yuna, looking triumphant. Other family members filled the remaining seats. Uncles, cousins, advisors. All watching Dae-hyun with varying degrees of curiosity and judgment. You're late, his father said in Korean. I was at the hospital, Dae-hyun replied, also in Korean, taking his designated seat. So we heard. Tae-won's eyes were sharp. An American woman. A child. Care to explain? This was it. The moment of truth. Dae-hyun stood, traditional courtesy, and addressed the room. 8 years ago, I met a woman in Los Angeles. Her name is Sarah. We had a relationship. When I was recalled to Seoul for my engagement to Min Seo, I ended things without knowing Sarah was pregnant. Murmurs rippled through the room. Yuna's smile became fixed. Yesterday, Sarah appeared at my office with my daughter.
Her name is Isla.
She's 7 years old, and she has acute myeloid leukemia. The murmurs grew louder. Tae-won held up a hand for silence. This child, he said slowly. You're certain she's yours? Yes, father. She has our eyes. The Kong eyes. There's no doubt. And the woman wants money, I assume. Uncle Kong interjected with a sneer. No, Dae-hyun said sharply. She wants nothing except for me to be tested as a bone marrow donor, which I was.
Today.
I'm a match. Mr. Choi leaned forward. This is all very touching, but what does it have to do with the alliance our families are negotiating? Everything, Dae-hyun said. Because I can't marry Yuna or anyone else. I have a daughter who needs me. A daughter I intend to be a father to. A illegitimate child from a foreign woman doesn't change family obligations, Mr. Choi said coldly. She's not illegitimate. She's mine. My blood. A Kong. Tae-won studied his son. Bring them here.
Tomorrow.
I want to see this child for myself. Father, Sarah is very protective. She won't. I don't care what she will or won't do. If this girl is truly a Kong, she belongs with family, especially if she's ill. Dae-hyun knew arguing was pointless. His father had made up his mind. I'll ask, he conceded. But I can't promise she'll agree. Yuna finally spoke, her voice deceptively sweet. This is all very sudden, Dae-hyun. How do you even know the child is yours? This woman could be lying, trying to trap you. The blood tests don't lie, Dae-hyun said coldly. Blood tests can be faked. DNA can be manipulated. Yuna's eyes glittered. If you're going to throw away our family's arrangement over this, you should at least be absolutely certain. I am certain. Then prove it. Bring the child here for independent testing. Let our family doctors verify the results.
If she's truly yours, fine.
If not, Eunice shrugged delicately. It was a trap, Dae-hyun realized.
If
He refused. He'd look like he had doubts. If he agreed, he'd be subjecting Isla to more tests, more stress, when she was already so fragile. The Samsung Medical Center results are sufficient, Dae-hyun said firmly. For you, perhaps, Mr. Choi interjected. But not for this council. If we're to break a generations-old alliance over a child, we need absolute proof. It's only reasonable. Tae-won nodded slowly. Mr. Choi makes a fair point.
tomorrow.
Bring them both. We'll verify the girl's parentage and see her with our own eyes. Then we'll decide how to proceed.
Decide.
Dae-hyun's voice rose. She's my daughter. There's nothing to decide. Everything is to be decided, his father said, his tone brooking no argument. Your personal feelings don't override family interests. They never have. You knew this when you joined this life. The meeting continued for another hour, details being hammered out. Agreements, compromises, threats veiled as suggestions. By the time Dae-hyun left the estate, it was nearly midnight, and he felt like he'd aged 10 years. Ho-jin drove him back to the city in silence. Finally, as they neared the Shilla, his second spoke. Boss, if I may, that little girl. She really does have your eyes. I know. And the mother. She's not what I expected. What did you expect?
Ho-jin shrugged.
Someone looking for money. For status. But she seems genuine. Like she really just wants to save her daughter. She is genuine, Dae-hyun said quietly. She always was. That's why I left her. I thought I was protecting her from this. He gestured vaguely at the city around them. From my life. My family. The things I do. Did it work? Dae-hyun laughed bitterly. Obviously not. Life found a way to drag her into it anyway. What are you going to do? I don't know. My father wants them at the estate tomorrow. Sarah will refuse. I can't force her. But if I don't bring them, my father will assume I'm lying. That Isla isn't really mine. Could you go behind her back? Take the girl? No, Dae-hyun said immediately. Absolutely not. Sarah would never forgive me. And she'd be right not to. They pulled up to the hotel. Dae-hyun sat in the car for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Stay here, he told Ho-jin. I need to talk to Sarah. Alone. He took the elevator to the presidential suite, his heart pounding. It was past midnight. They'd probably be asleep. But when he knocked softly, Sarah opened the door almost immediately. She was still dressed, her eyes red-rimmed. You're back, she said, not quite a question. Can I come in? Sarah hesitated, then stepped aside. The suite was dark except for one lamp. Isla was presumably asleep in the bedroom. How did it go? Sarah asked, crossing her arms defensively. My father wants to meet you. Both of you. Tomorrow. Why? Dae-hyun struggled with how much to tell her. Then decided on the truth. All of it. Because the Choi family is pushing for proof that Isla is mine. They want independent testing done by our family doctors. And they want to see her. To verify the Kong bloodline. Sarah's face went pale, then flushed with anger. Verify? Like she's some kind of prize horse. I know how it sounds.
Do you?
Do you know how it sounds to hear that your daughter has to prove she's worthy of your family's acknowledgement? Sarah, please.
No.
Sarah's voice shook.
No.
We're not doing this. We came here for a bone marrow transplant, not to be put on trial by your crime family. My father won't approve the transplant without meeting her. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. What? Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. He controls the family resources. The money, the medical facilities, everything. If he decides Isla isn't a Kong, or if he thinks I'm being manipulated, he can block everything. You're telling me that whether or not our daughter lives depends on impressing your father? Dae-hyun wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. Yes. Sarah sat down heavily on the couch, her head in her hands. This is insane. This whole situation is insane. I know. I should never have come here. I should have kept looking, found another donor, anything but this. There was no other donor. You said so yourself. There had to be. There has to be another way that doesn't involve parading my sick daughter in front of a bunch of criminals who want to judge whether she's good enough. Her voice had risen, and from the bedroom came a small, scared voice. Mommy. Sarah was up instantly, rushing to the bedroom. Dae-hyun followed, stopping at the doorway. Isla sat up in bed, Mr. Hoppy clutched to her chest. I heard yelling. Are you okay? I'm fine, baby. Just grown-up talk. Go back to sleep. Is Daddy still here? The word Daddy from Isla's mouth hit Dae-hyun like a physical blow. Sarah noticed his reaction but said nothing. He's here, Sarah said softly. Can he tuck me in? Sarah looked at Dae-hyun, and in her eyes, he saw exhaustion, fear, and a plea for normalcy. For their daughter's sake. Of course, Dae-hyun said, moving into the room. He sat on the edge of the bed, while Sarah stood back. Isla looked so small in the big hotel bed, so fragile. Are you and Mommy fighting? She asked quietly. We're just trying to figure out how to help you get better, Dae-hyun said, tucking the blanket around her. I don't want you to be sad because of me.
Oh, Isla.
Dae-hyun's throat tightened. You could never make me sad. You're the best surprise I've ever had. Really? Really? Isla smiled, her eyes already drooping. Will you tell me a story? Mommy always tells stories. Dae-hyun glanced at Sarah, who nodded permission. Okay. Let me think. He remembered the ghost story he'd mentioned in the car. Have I told you about the lady in white who walks in my family's gardens? The ghost. Isla's eyes opened wider. Not a scary ghost. A sad one. The story goes that many years ago, she was a princess who fell in love with a man from a different family. But their families didn't approve, so they couldn't be together. That's sad, Isla murmured. It is. But the princess didn't give up. She waited in the gardens every night, hoping he would come for her. And one night he did. He came and took her away, and they lived happily together, far from the families that tried to keep them apart. So, it's a happy ending?
Yes.
A happy ending. Good. Isla's eyes closed. I like happy endings. Within minutes, she was asleep. Dae-hyun stood carefully, following Sarah back to the living room. That was a dangerous story to tell, Sarah said quietly. Was it? A princess and a man from different worlds? Running away together? She's going to think that's what we should do. Maybe we should. Sarah stared at him. What? Run away. Take Isla and leave. Go somewhere neither of our families can find us. Get the transplant done somewhere else. You're serious? Why not? You don't want to deal with my family. I don't blame you. So we don't. We leave. And the bone marrow transplant? You think any random hospital will take us? These procedures cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Require months of aftercare. You think we can just do that on the run? I have money. Resources. I can make it happen. Sarah laughed, a broken sound. You're talking like we're together. Like we're a couple. We're not, Dae-hyun. We're two people who share a daughter. That's all. Is it? Yes. But she didn't sound certain. Dae-hyun moved closer. Sarah, I know I destroyed what we had. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But Isla deserves a father. A real father. Not someone who shows up for medical emergencies and then disappears. You don't know anything about being a father. Then teach me. Let me learn. I'm asking for a chance. That's all. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she said, Your father. This meeting tomorrow. What happens if I refuse to go? He'll assume I'm lying. He'll block the transplant. He might even take active steps to interfere. And if we go? Then there's a chance. If he sees Isla, sees those eyes, he'll know she's a Kong. My father is traditional, rigid, but he values family above everything. Once he accepts her as his granddaughter, he'll do everything in his power to save her. Even if it means breaking his alliance with the Choi family? Even then. Sarah walked to the window, looking out at Seoul's glittering skyline. I came here to save my daughter's life. I thought it would be simple. Bone marrow transplant, recovery, go home. But nothing with you is ever simple, is it? No, Dae-hyun admitted. It's not. If I do this, if I take Isla to meet your father, I need your promise. Your real promise, not the kind you made 8 years ago. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens at that meeting, no matter what your father says or demands, you'll make sure the transplant happens. Promise me you'll save her. Dae-hyun met her eyes. I promise. On my life, Sarah. I will save our daughter. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, we'll go. Tomorrow. But Dae-hyun, if your family does anything to hurt her, to make her feel less than, if they treat her like anything other than the amazing little girl she is, I will take her and disappear so far you'll never find us. Understand? Understood.
Good.
Sarah moved toward the bedroom. Now get out. We both need sleep. Tomorrow is going to be hell. Dae-hyun left, but not before catching Sarah's arm gently. Thank you for trusting me this much. I'm not trusting you, Sarah said. I'm trusting that you love her. That's different. After he left, Sarah stood in the dark living room, her arms wrapped around herself. She'd just agreed to walk into the lion's den, to expose her precious daughter to a world she'd tried so hard to protect her from.
But what choice did she have?
In the bedroom, Isla slept peacefully, Mr. Hoppy tucked under her chin. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, stroking her daughter's hair. I'll keep you safe, baby, she whispered. No matter what. I promise. Outside, Dae-hyun sat in the car with Ho-jin, his mind racing with plans and contingencies. He'd made Sarah a promise. Now he had to keep it, even if it meant going against his father, even if it meant destroying the family he'd been born into. Because Isla was family too, his family. And she came first. The next morning would bring the meeting that would change everything. But for now, in the quiet hours before dawn, Dae-hyun allowed himself to hope. Hope that his father would see what he saw. Hope that Isla would be accepted. Hope that somehow, impossibly, the broken pieces of his life might come together. Hope that there could still be a happy ending. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel for more emotional roller coaster tales. Hit that like button if Isla's story touched your heart and comment below. Do you think Dae-hyun's father will accept Isla? Will Sarah and Dae-hyun find their way back to each other? Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Thank you for watching.